I'm going to bring up in no particular order. She's been upstage a couple of times. The core, the beautiful, talented, amazing J Booms. Coming up to join her is Afolashade Fade. A round of applause for her. Now, coming up next is a lady that, if you check my saved folder on Instagram, I've saved all her posts. I don't even know what else to do. Like, she drops nuggets all the time. She is intelligent. She is smart. Allow me to reintroduce my panelists. All right, coming up next is Adora Melu. Coming up next, we have a multi-potentialite. He's a speaker, a coach, an author. Oh, by the way, his book is here for sale. Get ahead. So please purchase it outside. Speak to any of our hostesses and get one of the books. He's a lawyer, a trainer, an entrepreneur, and most significantly, a minister of the gospel. Please make welcome Christopher Omoijiade. A round of applause for him. Right. Finally, to join this conversation, but certainly not the least, is a woman who is beautiful. Beautiful in and out. In fact, what you see outside is nothing compared to what's in her heart. Ladies and gentlemen, without much further ado, let's make welcome the beautiful, the lovable Esther Longa. A round of applause for her. I have so many questions. I have too many things burning in my heart, but let me just start. I'll start with you, Adora. When you come on Instagram and you see some posts, you just be wondering, what am I doing with my life? God, am I a potato? God, am I a microphone? What is my usefulness in life? Then you think that's where the pressure stops. You will now just visit LinkedIn. You will now say a post like, I just want to celebrate my 3rd degree and whilst getting a job in Google. And please don't forget to wish me a happy 19th birthday. You're like, you're just 19 years old. You have done 3 degrees. You have a job with Google. You have this and that. And there's that pressure. Adora, I have questions here, but I'm just going to tweak them because I want this to be as real as possible, because we have people who are dealing with different things, peer pressure, challenges, comparison, especially because, social media, you can see people's lives and you feel like their lives are perfect. And you start to feel like yours isn't. How do you advise us here, everyone who is here and people that are watching virtually, to control the tendency to compare themselves, while still being able to celebrate other people? I'll start with you, Adora.
Thank you so much, Moji. So, I think one of the things that is really important is definitely self-awareness, and Mrs. Titilayo Oshodi talked about this, right? I think that it's very important, first of all, to understand yourself, be able to be in tune with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your emotions, right? Who am I? What am I about? What is important to me? Success is relative at the end of the day, right? So if you look at success, I personally look at success as making sure that I'm adding value to my core pillars day to day. And my core pillars basically cut across things like my finances, my family, my relationships, my health, my learning experience. And so if you look at success in that light, where it's like, how am I adding to my pillars, to the things that are important to me? I think that it helps you sort of shift the way that you appear in the world. Let me give you guys an example, right? When I was leaving my house this morning, for those of you who have seen me on panels or seen me speak at any events, I usually wear a suit. If I'm not wearing a suit, I'm wearing like a kimono. But I was leaving my house this morning, and honestly, I did not feel like wearing any of those things. These pants are probably like one of my oldest trousers. But I left my house and I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to choose convenience today, and I'm going to choose the state of mind that I'm in. I just want to be happy today, right? And I'm not going to force myself to appear a certain way. And I think that that's important, right? So just saying to yourself, people say things like, dress how you want to be addressed. And the world can move us in all these directions and tell us all these things. And it's not that those things are not important, because they are to some extent. But I think when you look at it as, I personally today, I chose what was working for me. It may not necessarily work for you, right? But I'm going to pick. The opportunity cost is too high to care about your validation in the moment. And so I think, that would be my response. It's self-awareness, going inwards before you go outwards.
Thank you so much. So going inwards before you go outwards, and doing what works for you. Be aware of yourself and not just trying to please every other person but yourself. Thank you very much, Adora. So J Booms, right? What are some of the most important lessons that you have learned in your own personal and professional life, and how can these be applied to young men and women who are here listening, people who look up to you, and as they're building their own, path? Some of the most important lessons you have learned in your life.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll say the first thing is authenticity. Can you hear me? Okay, there's a interruption. Should I continue? Yes, okay, that's good. Perfect. I think the first thing I'll say is authenticity. I think that authenticity is so important in life's journey, especially to start to think about it when you're in your 20s, because you can only be you. And I think for me, this is my biggest selling point. I don't know how to be anybody else but myself. I know how there are people who package and do certain things, go certain places, buy certain clothes, live in a certain house, have a certain circle of friends because they are trying to look a certain way, like Adora said. However, that's not me. It has never been me. It will never be me. So being authentic and being true to myself has landed me a lot of good, both personally and financially. I mean, one of the reasons why I was able to build Shredder Gang is because of my authenticity. One of the reasons why I'm sure you all love me on Instagram, on JBooms, is because I'm authentic. What you see is what you get. And so authenticity, number one. Number two is taking calculated risk. I like to think that I can be a daredevil. Thankfully, I have my husband to help me in terms of balance that out. I take a lot of risk. I mean, at the age of 24, I decided I was going to leave Canada and move to Nigeria, where I had no family. I literally was the only one. Still, I'm the only one here. I took a calculated risk based on God's voice to say, this is what I was going to do. My father asked me when I was leaving to say, Bumi, this thing that you want to do, who has done it before? Crickets. Nobody. And he was like, so you think you're just going to go to Nigeria? Nigeria is just going to, receive you with arms wide open? And I was like, yes. And Nigeria did. Nigeria did receive me with arms wide open because I felt that I had something to give and I was willing to take the risk. If I had second guessed myself, for many years, and I probably not be where I am today. So, and the next thing I'll say is, you guys know, J-Booms, Jesus Bumi, I cannot leave out God, right? So I'm just going to give you three. And the last one I'm going to say is, because I'm a person of faith, is understanding my purpose and living that out based off of my own understanding of that, not what other people think of it, and allowing God to write my story. So what I mean by that is, I might have something that I think is great. However, what God has for me is so much better than what I have for myself. And so being obedient to that and being obedient to his voice is very, very critical. So that's three things I'll say: authenticity, obeying the voice of God, and taking risk.
Thank you so much. And thank you. You can applaud her. Thank you. And I think just to piggyback what you said on authenticity, it is very, very important. It sounds like, oh yeah, cliche. Everybody says be authentic, be authentic. I'll share a very short story, personal story. When I wanted to start hosting events, I used to be a banker. I would assume that I would never be a good host. Why? I didn't have an accent. Because then when you turn on the TV, there's accent everywhere. And I'm just wondering, where would I start from? I just speak normally and I don't have an accent. I remember hosting an event one day and my co-host, his accent was not here. Like, I just felt like, I'm just speaking what I know. A gentleman walked up to me after the event and did not stop complimenting how I spoke. And I was like, oh, really? I speak well? Like, because I wasn't sure. He just went on and on. Older man, he was just like, oh, you speak well. I love that you were not trying to force an accent. You were just yourself. You did this and on and on. And I have an event coming up. I want you to do it. What's your fee? I thought, oh, people will just book me. And you just ask and they won't book. And what I got from him was double what I got from that event. And from there, this man has gone on and on to speak about me to everybody he's met. What am I saying? Just be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. Just be you and be authentic to yourself. Thank you so much, J Booms, for sharing that. Mr. Christopher, over to you now. So, J Booms has said, at 24, she knew what she wanted. She had heard God's voice, purpose, and all of that. But there are people in the room who are maybe 24 or 23 or below or 19 or 27 or 30 and don't even know their purpose. So there's that pressure of, wow, what am I even doing with my life? People have other stories. There are people who, got it at 21, people who got it at 18, people who got it at 30, 40, at any age. How do we, manage, not necessarily the comparison, but how do we fit into find our callings so that we can also, in line with your book, get ahead in life and not feel like we're way behind of every other person who's made it, whether they are younger or older?
Okay, first things first, am I not blessed amongst women?
Yes, you are. Beautiful women.
Beautiful, intelligent women. When I saw the lineup earlier on, I was like, who picked this? It can only be Renny. How we should do this? Anyway, it's good to be here and so many familiar faces and friends. I think the first major thing for anyone that is in their 20s to understand is not to actually put so much pressure on themselves. There's something about purpose where it evolves over time. Its discovery is not something that you bang on a door. Some are lucky enough to be able to have those doors swung right open. But the mind that is speaking to you is an embodiment of somebody who is even still in the process of discovering purpose. And I'm in my early 40s. So I don't think that pressure should actually be on anyone concerning their purpose. It is a lifelong journey. Because you find out that you get to a certain stage, what fascinated you in your 30s suddenly doesn't just appeal to you. And especially someone like Adora, I know she is an embodiment of different parts. I found out that in my own life, there were some certain expressions that were more pronounced in some certain ages. And in other ages, they tend to just be a little bit more, more subtle. Yeah, that's the word, quiet. So maybe in my 30s, I found myself more as a speaker. And in my 40s, I'm evolving into more of a writer. Because then I'm taking my time now to assimilate my thoughts. So I think that's where I will start off. The second thing I would say, of which is extremely important, and I was just right there thinking about it, is how in the process of even discovering the purpose, the number of mistakes that you're going to make. Oh my, tons of mistakes. This gentleman, I'm still in it. So don't let anyone pressurize you, like she rightfully pointed out. It's an evolution. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to stand up from those mistakes. Mr. Shodi spoke about it. And for you to be so vulnerable, she said it at 25. And that's, everyone has theirs. So whilst you're out there looking at the beautiful screens on your devices and seeing these glamorous lives that are behind filters and behind ring lights, understand that it is called life for a reason. It is a journey. And as you go through it, you would learn. You would fall. You will stand. You will cry. You would laugh. In fact, on a final note, the major lesson I learned last week was I found out how the decisions you make in your 20s, they stack up. They stack up to your 30s and your 40s. So I've been having pains in my feet for quite a while now. I do a lot of my work standing. I just left an occasion where I was privileged to speak to military officers, colonels, senior officers, about 100 of them on emotional intelligence. I was on my feet for 2.5 hours. And when I'm done here, I'm going to book another session with my physiotherapist. But when I got to the physio the first time, do you know what he said to me? He said, do you realize that all of the pain you're feeling right now were accumulated pain that you ignored for a long time? So in my 20s, when I was jumping around, doing all of that, I had no idea that I was causing myself pain, thinking I was going to be young forever, I was going to be vibrant and, flexible. Guess what? In my 40s, I'm paying the physio now to, get me on her feet. So I think that would be my initial comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you. So I'm coming to you, ma'am. This is Falashade. People at this age, I like to think I'm young. for people who know my age. For those who don't know, I'm Gen Z, and I choose to identify as a Gen Z for the purpose of this conversation. At what age is it okay to leave the house and start living by yourself? So, and is it compulsory? Because I still live with my family, and I'm very proud to live with them. I'm not paying house rent. I'm very happy. But, you know, and are there benefits to living home before you get married to live by yourself?
All right, interesting question. So that question is a stereotype. It's a saying. It's something that flies everywhere. You are still living in your father's house. The important thing to note is your personal journey and the underlying factors. Who are you in your father's house? Are you a responsible individual in your father? Why are you in your father's house? If simple and short, I work in Yaba, my father has a house in Yaba, I stay in Yaba, simple and short. So I think we get caught up with stereotype a lot, what society thinks, and a lot of people find themselves following the crowd and aren't answering to who they are. So instead of saying leave your father's house, I think people say it's also for independence. You can be a responsible human being in your father's house, and you can also be an irresponsible human being in your own house. So let's narrow it to who you are right now. What are the facts of life that is thrown at you, right? I got married out of my father's house, and that was in my 20s. There was even no reason for me to be out of my house. If my father is living at Ibafo, and I get a job at VI, I probably will move to VI. So let us focus on who we are, where we are at every point in life, and who you are, how living in your father's house. And I think we can even be responsible while living in our father's house. Like, do what you should do. Pay, spend money, be responsible. The boundaries sometimes that our parents expect or put of us are just responsible boundaries that human beings should follow. Like, if you're going out, let somebody know where you're going to. I think that is just common sense. And guess what? These are the same boundaries you are going to repeat for your own family. So if you think that somebody is controlling you, then you will one day want to control. The cycle will come around. So can we be just individual human beings with common sense and just think normally and don't follow the crowd or stereotype? Put your cards on the table. Think it right. Choose what works for you.
Thank you so much. And I think just to add off what you said, it's very important to be responsible and also check why you're moving on. Is it because my friends have moved out of this area? But is it financially worth it for you? There are lots of questions to be asked. Thank you so much for sharing that. Finally, I'm here. Almost feel like I ignored you. So Esther, thank you so much for being here. My question to you, first of all, will be to share tips that helped you, growing up, and what has helped, important life skills that you have learned first. And then I'll ask you on friendships, how you think we can build sustainable friendships at this age.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Renny. Hello. So there are two questions in one. The first question is, what are the life skills that I have learned? And when I was thinking about this question, because we saw some of these questions before, for me, the most important questions will be the soft skills, or the important skills will be the soft skills. It is good to go and study several degrees. It's good to have all the certifications. But I think it was Bissy that was saying it, that when you finish your degree, that's when life actually starts. And I think that's one of the things that throws us off balance, because we finish school and we think, yes, now, life is going to bow. And then life bow you understand? So you have to learn the soft skills, and unfortunately, they don't teach them in the classroom. What are the soft skills? Emotional intelligence. He just spoke about that, and it's interesting that people in their 40s and their 50s are still learning this. It's a lifelong skill. You can be the smartest person in the universe, but if you don't know how to channel that smartness into intelligent speak, you will find yourself out of opportunities that should have been easy for you to grasp. Another thing is understanding time. I think that one of the things, and it's not just for 20s, it can be for 30s or 40s, however it hits you, is understanding that everything must go through a process. And one of the things that we find is that if we don't allow the process to process us, we will find ourselves in situations that we had no business being in. And because the process must happen, especially if you're somebody who has, a call of God on your life, or you have a purpose in this life, you must go through the process. When we talk about Adara's wisdom, it didn't just come from the heavenlies, you understand? It's process. It's sitting down and thinking, why did I go through what I went through? What are the lessons that I can take from this? And a lot of people, we don't think. If we could spend more time thinking, you'll find that you're not going around the same mountain so many times. If you spend time analyzing, this has happened to me 4 times. I've dated the same Yoruba demon in different agbadas. Do you understand? Is it them or is it me? These are questions. These are the questions. But instead, your friends will be telling you, you are the best wife material. I don't know why you are single. Of all of us, I thought you'd have been married. And you're like, it's true. I look at myself and I see a wife, But if you don't actually stop and think, what is it about me that is attracting these people? What is it about me that, I see the nice, godly person, but is the one that, is, them. You understand that I'm attracted to, you won't learn the lesson. Apply that to every aspect of life. What is it about you that every time you get to you do well in the biometric tests or whatever for a job, when you get in front of a person, something about you turns them off and you don't know. You're just like, every time I get to the interview stage, I don't get the job. You have to think about your life. One of the most precious gifts you will give yourself is the ability to think. Sit down, spend time with yourself. All the time that we're spending on Instagram, just say, you know what, 1 hour, think about where you are, think about where you've been, and think about where you want to go. I always tell people, study the cycles of your life. You will see that you have 5-year patterns, 7-year patterns, 3 year. Things happen. J-Boom was talking about 10 years ago. Why? She's thinking. Do you even know where you were 10 years ago? So one of the most important things you can give, and it's only going to be 1 point, because 1 point spans everything else, is give yourself the gift of thinking, meditating. Think about your life. Think about where you are. Think about where you want to go, and think about what you need to do to get to those places.
So much. Think about your life. Just take stock and reflect.
I realized I didn't answer the second question. The second question is about friendships. I think the Bible says, he who would have good friends must first be a good friend. I think it's fantastic. We all shed a tear when we saw Olabisi. We all shed 2 tears when we saw all of the friends come. But one thing they said, which is consistent, is that Morenike is a good friend to them, and that's why they find it easy to be a good friend to her. A lot of the capital that she has used to host this event is social capital, meaning that she's a good person and people want to do good things for her. If you want to have good friends, take stock. Once again, back to thinking, am I a good person? Am I a good friend? Do I take more than I give? Do I feel like the world owes me something? And people can smell it. They can smell entitlement. So before you ask for one thing, make sure you are giving 10. Not necessarily to the same person, but be giving, be a giver. Bless people. And giving is not about gifts. You're not trying to buy relationships. Give your time. Give your expertise. Volunteer. Make it easy, and you'll find that the relationships you're looking for will be attracted to you.
Thank you so much. We don't have so much time, so I'll take final questions and go around. So when you answer your final question, you also give us your parting shots, just navigating adulthood, and how everyone in the room in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and in case there are 50s here who also want to learn. I know that we have not gotten there, but you can just share anyhow, just navigate. And I'll start with you, Adora. My question to you is, What are some effective strategies for building a strong professional network and finding mentors who can provide guidance and support? And then your parting shot.
Okay, I'm going to keep that one very short because I think Esther answered it. For me, based on my personal experience, it's really been about being kind. There's so many strategies that you can find online, and I mean, this is a very digital generation, so I'm not going to bore you with that because I feel like when if you go online, they'll tell you these are all the steps that you need to follow in order to attract your mentor. But I think at the very bottom line is you just need to be a kind person, right? What kind of person are you? I've been to events where I've got off the stage. In fact, I had a particular incident. I got off the stage, people were close marking me, and this guy was pitching his idea to me in that moment. And I was choking because I hadn't drank water, right? And I was choking, and he kept talking, and his friend said, "Oh, let me go and get you water." And his friend came. As soon as his friend came back, I turned to his friend and, started talking to his friend, and I walked out because he was so focused on talking to me that he didn't even notice I was choking, right? I think that you just have to be an honest person and a kind person. And I think the other thing that's definitely helped as well is, do the work. Be great at what it is that you do. If you put in the effort to do great work, you will attract the type of people who are genuinely interested in being a part of your journey. It's a two-way street. You're trying to network, and I always tell people network across with your peers as well. You don't always have to network up, right? If you're building something, look around you. How can I add value to the people who are my peers first? Because you'll find that a lot of those people are the people that eventually become the people that you're trying to network up to, right? So that's very powerful. I also wanted to talk about. I was listening to you said we can do our parting.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was listening to everyone speak, and it kept coming back down to self-awareness for me. I feel like that's what this panel is really, really about. Talking about thinking for yourself, for example. I really think that it's so important to know who you are. That for me, that's my parting gift to you guys. Let me tell you why. For example, one of the things that has been very effective on my journey has been self-motivation. You're not always going to be motivated by people. You're not always going to be motivated by you know how sometimes you go on Instagram, right? And you see Morenike traveling. You just be saving it and sending it to your friend, right? That's going to be us. And in your mind, you have traveled, but you have not really traveled, right? And then you see these people who are like doing fit farm, and you're like, you're watching them, and you think that you are lifting because they are lifting in the video, right? So you're so excited. You have all these things saved, but you never actually, are able to move, to take action, to doing these things. Some of you have built businesses in your head, but never actually taking action, right? I think it's really important to motivate yourself. Figure out ways, if you know what works for you, what is important to you, right? That becomes a great way to get ahead, right? And I think when you are aware, you then are able to. Somebody earlier said, Morenike was planning her event, but she was simultaneously also being a pillar to other people. I think it puts you in a position where you understand that life is about service. Purpose is about service. Purpose is not just about ambition. People think about purpose in the light of, my work, my professional career, the business I'm trying to build. But I'm like, you serve a purpose in being a daughter. You serve a purpose in being, a mother. I serve a purpose in being my son's mother, in being a friend. There's purpose in all those things. And so you learn to become a pillar. Not everybody wants to be president. Not everybody is going to be vice president. Vice president has an EA, has an executive assistant that is important and crucial to being that. So please do not ever feel that your ambition is not big enough because it is not tier one. Tier one is relative, completely relative. I tell people that the reason why my dreams have been interpreted the way they are is because I've been a pillar. So many people's dreams. I look at myself as a dream interpreter, and I think about Joseph in the Bible, right? And the thing is, for Joseph, right? Joseph became king by interpreting people's dreams. He as much as we like to say Joseph was a dreamer, Joseph was a dream interpreter, right? And so the way that he got his own dream interpreted was by interpreting the dreams of others. So please don't ever be afraid to be a pillar of support to other people's journeys, because that will take you to exactly where it is that you're meant to be. At the end of the day, we are vessels, and God is using every single one of us in the different ways that he needs to use us for the work that we need to do in this world. So don't ever forget that you are an important part of that equation.
Thank you so much for touching on that. And also to add that it doesn't make your own dream or vision less than what it is. Look at Morenike. She has served all week. I've been watching. I know how much she's worked on another event, but she's here and it doesn't make her less of who she is. So let's just keep doing that. Thank you so much, Adora, for touching on that. Madam Falashade, this is for you. What are some effective strategies for managing stress and maintaining mental and emotional well-being as we navigate adulthood? And then your part in short.
Okay. I don't know why I was looking forward to parenting tips, but strategies for managing stress and adulthood. So I think a lot of us will drink, or you know, when you have money at the end of the month and you apportion your money, you say this is going for X, this is going for Y, this is going for... You are staying in a place of power to apportion things. We need to start seeing ourselves, our time, our power from that light. From the beginning of the year, you need to say that, how do I want to manage how do I want to care for myself? So you now say that, okay, every other month I'm going to go to a spa. Then you now plan and say, okay, sometimes you can even go ahead and book for that spa treatment at the beginning of the year when you have time in abundance, because right now you now have 12 months in abundance. So we need to start thinking or managing ourselves from a place of power and not from the place of exhaustion. So what a lot of people do, and what we do, is that when the money is exhausted, or when we are now tired or we are now sick, we now remember that I need a break. So if we start thinking from the place of abundance and from the place of power and start managing our resources like that, and talking to women in the house as well. I know that when we were young, there's something we said, we praise women for they always eat last from the pot. Oh, my mom, sometimes she goes hungry. You don't need to go hungry if you plan ahead that I need 3 kilos or I need 3 cups to spread around. So I want us to move to a place of power to start managing ourselves. And it's also the place of knowledge. So for stress, for instance, if you understand the type of job you do as a woman or just as an individual, you can as well plan ahead. And that also goes in terms of anxiety and all other things. So the question is, how do you manage stress? What else? Effective strategies. So I think that's really one thing I want us to start looking at. Stop waiting from the place, stop thinking or making decisions from the place of exhaustion. Do it from the place of power. Then you can now appropriate this money I have, this time I have, I'm going to use it how I want it, not how life is forcing me. If you wait for life to force you, if you wait for your job to force you, right, you are going to have to succumb to whatever it brings to you. If you wait for you don't do your leave, you don't do all of this, you don't plan it ahead. Plan ahead. At the beginning of the quarter, this is a new quarter, I think, you can just plan ahead and say that I'm going to go for this holiday, I'm going to rest, I'm going to spend time with my children this time. That's something we don't do. We wait until the children now need your help. You now get a call from your child's school. All of a sudden, the job that you didn't plan, you didn't apportion the time well from the beginning, you now tell your boss, there's an emergency in my home. But you could have as well told your boss that this amount, 30 minutes of time, or this day of the week, I want to spend 1 hour with my kids. So I want us to step into that mindset. Stay in the place of power, apportion your resources. Don't let life force you, or don't spend out of emptiness or exhaustion.
Thank you. Before your parting shot, sorry, I have a question for you. We have some parents in the room, right? So how would you advise parents to train their teenagers to navigate adulthood? I mean, considering that adulthood typically will start at about 18, 19, 20.
Yeah. So there are 7 phases of parenting, and I think many parents miss the first one. Every phase is important, but the first one is meeting your child. The excitement you have that I have a baby must carry on to meeting that child. A lot of us have a mindset that you know that child, or we now project our idea of who that child is. But you see, when you meet your child, like you begin to take note of who this child is, how this child acts, and you don't, and I hear some people saying that my 2-year-old is too sharp. How can a 2-year-old can't just wake up and be sharp? You need to focus on who this child is. Begin to see their expression as a form of identity. Then you can now create structures that helps that child either to strengthen that identity or to balance it out. Now, the problem is because a lot of parents miss the key stage of meeting and knowing their child, a lot of people in their 20s are now finding themselves. So you find people in 40s just trying to find themselves, because guess what? The society will help you if you don't help yourself. There is primary school, secondary school, university. After university, your mommy will ask you, where is the man? Or you do a job, then you... So there is that important place of parents meeting their child. So the question is, how can the teenage years are the practice years for adulthood? It is in the teenage years you are supposed to practice life skills, practice, just try out new things. That is when, and a lot of things already happen in teenage years. Teenagers are struggling with their weight. Teenagers are struggling with friendship. Teenagers are struggling with stress. Now imagine that you as a parent, you commit to using that time where your teenager is already struggling with weight, or somebody said this to me, bullying and all that. You use that time to give them skills so that they are practicing real skills when they are facing life in their own minute, phase. If they practice the skills, by the time they get to their 20s, they've already mastered these skills. So parenting is a very core part of who we are. In fact, our parents are the first foundation, what I call the runway. So if you think that your parent didn't give you a solid foundation, because really it's not their fault, and I want you to see this from a place of grace, you can audit your parents. How was I raised? Some of us were raised with parents that said, don't have friends, and now you didn't have friends. Now you are now alone in the room. So you need to audit, how was I raised? Then in your 20s is the year you now rebirth yourself. Yoruba says you are to my be. Is in your 20s. You do a self-awareness, self-check. And there are 3 things. This is the last thing I'll say. There are 3 things I want that can help you to find who you are. Where do you spend your time at? If you go on social media, who do you go to? Where do you spend your time? What excites you? Who is the person do you follow? Some of us follow people that have babies. Some of us follow people that love dogs. Ask yourself, why do I like people that follow dogs? It might be your own form of fun or entertainment. How you spend your money, where your money goes. And the third one is your power. The things you say yes to or the things you say no to. These are things you can go into minute detail. Do you know that you can meet yourself from answering who you say yes or who you say no to? Sometimes the people you say yes to them because you don't want to offend them. You can actually pick it that maybe I'm a people pleaser. You can actually pick it that maybe I have low self-esteem. You can actually pick it that maybe I am not a confident person. So if you do a narrowed down checking on who you are, right? This is a phase you are in the 20s. Then make mistakes, grow from it. I think we're good to go. Let's stop there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. J Booms, I'm coming to you now. we look at your friendship with Renny, we look at your friendship with BC, and we're just like, oh my God, I mean, I don't have friends. And people, I've seen you comment sometimes that you actually have those friends, but you're looking for the fancy type that you see here. So, but advise us, right? How can we build and maintain healthy friendships? We admire what you have with Renny and BC and your other friends. How do we as young adults build and maintain these sustainable, true friendships as we journey through adulthood? And then your parting shot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. It's such a deep question, and there's so much to say, but I'll try and make it as short as possible. For me, I'll still go back to my first point. It's about being authentic. You really cannot be a good friend and build good friendships without being authentic, right? So I use my own relationships as an example, as a case study. I find that these days, because of social media, I don't know this fly, because of social media, you see Renny and I, you see my best friend Ayo, who is here, shout out Ayo. You see, let me just use her as an example. Everywhere that I go that is within her power, she's there. Like, she's right there. She follows me everywhere I'm speaking. If she's not working, it's within her power. Shout out. Chop knuckle. So the thing about it is, we see fancy friendships, especially on social media. We have projected this, my friends have to, be. It's just like, I think Adora posted it the other day about strategic friendships, and she was like, you know what, if this is, you missed me with that, like, I'm gone already. And you find that because we project a certain type of friendship, which is truly who we are, you start to look for those same types of friends. You want that. Meanwhile, you have your own friends. You have people who love you, who root for you, who come, come out for you, do everything for you, but you're like, you know what? I don't want this friend, because why? Maybe they don't have influence, or they don't have the same type of social status that you're looking out for. A lot of times people come and say, can I be your friend? Do you really want to be my friend? No, think about it. The people that you go and ask that you want to be their friend, you want to be Adora's friend. Why do you want to be Adora's friend? Exactly, right? She's famous. She probably has high level network friends that you probably can profit off of. We have these selfish reasons.
Post to you, get followers.
Exactly. Do you understand? And you see what BC said is so profound. She said, don't look for friends that you can level up to. You're going somewhere together. Yeah, you can be going somewhere together. Yes, that's great. But have friends that just love you. Like the other day, I was telling me and Renny were laughing about it. Somebody was saying, can we do this? Can we do that? I'm just like, can I just like you? Can't I just like you? Can't we just chill and be, why must we be doing something? So I think it's important to understand why you want certain types of friends. So being authentic to yourself and knowing why. This same self-awareness is so important. You must understand, why do I want certain things? Is it because they make me look a certain way? So growing your friendships, like for instance, like my best friend is here. She's here to support me. The next time she's doing something, I'm going to be there to support her as well. So be the friend that you want in your friends, right? Make sacrifices as well. So for instance, now our friend BC, she moved away, she jackpot. She moved away, and she came into this year. She has lots of goals, things that she wanted to do, and she was speaking to us about certain things that she wanted to do. And Renny just messaged me. Renny's like, I'm going to London. And I was like, oh shit, Billy. I love it. She says, you know what, I'm going to go and show up for her. And she went, right? This is being intentional. Friendships will cost you money. That's the truth. Because if you're going to make sacrifices, you're going to spend money a lot of times. And the thing about it is that if you see Renny doing this, don't expect that BC is going to do the exact same thing back for her. So if Renny is, whatever, Renny should jump on a plane and surprise her here. No, but there are ways that BC would help Renny that makes sense to her. What's your friend's love language? So important. Like for me, my friend was receiving an award. She messaged me, she's like, I'm receiving an award. I'm like, there's nobody there with you. I'm coming. Right? These are things that we do for friendships, right? is so key. And I know that a lot of people have a lot of reservations about friendships. I don't know if I can trust people. But the thing about it is that you can't trust until you trust. You really can't trust until you trust. And I know that you may have been hurt by many friends. People might have said things to you, have done things to you in the past. But the truth about it is that you miss opportunities if you don't allow yourself to experience it. You don't know if you're going to meet somebody who is going to be your best friend if you don't try. So if you keep, a wall around your heart, because a lot of women in the room, you keep a wall around your heart because you're saying that, people have hurt me before. Right, but I'll tell you today, let your guard down, and allow people in. Some will hurt you. I say it all the time. You will chop friendship breakfasts. You say if you give friendship breakfasts, it's not true. It's true. But the thing about it is, just try. Make an effort. Make an effort with your friends, And really, if you look around you, the truth about it is, you do have friends. You have just chosen not to see them as friends.
Thank you so much, J. Booms. Thank you. We're gradually wrapping up. We have our final questions. Mr. Christopher, is adulthood a scam? I mean, is it really a scam? Some of us in this room still think it's a scam. Is it a scam? And then you're parting shots in. Okay,
so real quick, I just knew I was going to get that question. You are proud of me, right? So let me first start with J. Booms. Can I be your friend? Can we go on those holidays too? I know I'm speaking for a lot of people in the crowd. Can we? Who's paying? Okay. So, is adulthood a scam? 2 decades or less, we were in school. Yes, you know how?
So there's this meme on Instagram, like since primary 2, person never rests.
Rest. So I'm seeing faces of people that I've known for quite a while, and time flies. It flies so fast, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, because I remember there was a time that I felt I was invincible, and I realized that I'm visible, extremely visible. I'm not as invisible as I thought. My wife asked me when I actually mentioned, I don't know, she was walking past me, the questionnaire came in, and she actually said, it's a scam. And I repeated and said, I don't actually think it's a scam. I think it's a function of interpretation and circumstances that lead to why people will call it a scam. First things first, like so many other things you're going to experience in marriage, it's not going to come with a manual. And anything else that comes with a manual always breeds confusion. Marriage is not going to come with a manual. The babies are not going to come with a manual. Life itself is not going to come. Friendship is not going to come with a manual. But I think the most important thing is once you start realizing like what they've all said, if it's purpose, if it's what you're really here to do, it's about being intentional about yourself and other people, you find out that it can actually be a breeze. I'm actually finding out that I am getting a lot more in this transitional age of my 40s than I probably had in my 30s and 20s, where I actually had quite a number of people. In fact, she will bear me witness, quite a number. But with time, it scales. Don't say it. It scales down, and I begin to realize that those that are left, after all said and done, are proving to me that it's worth being a friend. Now, there's so many things you're going to go through. You're going to get work. You're going to start a business. Am I here to tell you that everything is going to work? No. The bills are going to come fast and furious. Things are going to happen to you. Unexpected events are going to come. Sorry, I don't mean to dampen the mood. Death will come. Life is going to happen. And when all these things stare at you in the face, the question you really need to ask yourself is, have you built the resilience in your 20s, your 30s? I have aged parents now that I remember my father was known as Adolf Hitler growing up. And I'm seeing that just being in a car with him in 10 minutes is asleep. That is life. And I would end on this note. And I took express permission from Renny. I said, hope I can talk small Bible. She said, what? Go ahead. She's even eating. She said, go ahead. My parting shot is this. There's a scripture that I like. The way of the transgressor is hard. The minute you start transgressing against set laws of the Almighty, set laws that govern times and seasons and nature, you will suffer. Sorry, I had to be dramatic with the suffer part. You will suffer. The minute you understand that, like for instance, we all know about the law of gravity. What goes up must come down. So if you climb a skyscraper, you believe that the angels will catch you and not allow your leg to dash against a stone. Just realize that Lagos State ambulance services are not very quick. That is a reality. My parting shot is find God in your 20s. People, if you don't listen to me, you one day sit on a panel and remind yourself in your 40s. What God might mean to you might not be what it means to me. But in your 20s, it gives you a blank check. You do not have so much responsibilities that would catch up with you as you progress. Find God, find Him, find Him. Stick with Him. He is the creator of all. He has so expertly created each and every one of us and embedded in us unique abilities and qualities that will announce you to your world and your generation. Don't seek validation from elsewhere. Seek validation from the one who has created you Himself and who knows you much more than any friend, any family, or anybody else would. The peace that comes from it. Because why am I saying this? It's like a race. Finding God is such that eventually the day you decide, guess what? You will start from nursery 1. So now that you are at this stage, it's a perfect opportunity for you to be able to. And on the final note, please.
You mean final?
Final. Be conscious of your decisions. They would portray what your future looks like. If you want to know what your future looks like, just look at your decisions. I made a lot. Many that I am paying the price for right now. Still paying. Esther knows. I'm about to call, don't she remember? I'm about to call once or twice. You know. And like what she said, if you don't stay conscious of your decision, you will transverse around those mountains for so long till common sense will decide to enter your head like the prodigal son that came to himself. So be careful of the decisions that you're going to make moving forward. I can't wait to hear what Esther has to say. Please give her a tough question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on the final note to Esther, there's something we say in I'm a Yoruba girl, but I'll translate it. Is Adiye. Okay, no. Let me say it in English the way I understand it. Chicken sweat, but the feathers don't make it obvious. So everyone, deals with different things. And for the fact that some people can carry it well does not mean that it's not heavy, right? So, Esther. People have gone through different things: hurt, disappointment, pain, abuse, heartbreaks, different things. And now it's affecting their, some of us, it's affecting our adulthood. Let me not say there because we're all going through this journey. It's affecting how we process adulthood. How do you advise us to deal with this, the baggage that we've had, upbringing, maybe we had abusive parents, just all these things that have built up and we have kind of swept under the carpet, and now the carpet is coming up, shooting out, and then we're dealing with challenges in adulthood. Then your parting shot. And we'll take a few questions from the audience. If you have any, please prepare them very quickly so we can have our final session.
Thank you. I was smiling when you asked me the question. Before, please, I have to address, I don't know why Christopher is trying to, he says early 40s. Me, I'm Gen Z. He keeps saying,
whatever you choose to identify as, we're Gen Zs. High five, Gen Z.
This is the side, But I was smiling when you asked me the question because that was going to be my parting shot. We need to heal. And in your 20s, give yourself the gift of healing, wholeness. If I can kneel down and beg you, I will kneel down and beg you. You see, you may not be responsible for the things that happened to you in childhood, and to be honest, they should not have happened. You're not responsible for the way life has tried to break you, and I'm sorry, it shouldn't have happened the way that it happened. But you owe not just yourself, but the generations that are coming from you, the gift of healing. One of my, I didn't ask for permission. If life block me, life block me. But one of my favorite stories to teach from is from the Bible. It's the story of Jephthah. Now, Jephthah in Judges 11, verse 1, it says, Jephthah was a mighty man of valor, but he was the son of a harlot. What's our business with who was his mother? What's our business? He's an adult. He is not just any kind of mighty man. He's a mighty man of valor. He was leading people. In fact, when they were looking for someone to deliver the Israelites from the Gibeonites, they knew exactly where to find him. So there are people here who are doing the thing, who are living life, doing amazing things. But we find out that the reason why there's verse 1 is because of verse 7. They come to meet him and they say, we need you to come and help rescue us. And he says, who are you guys? You know, seeing the last time I saw you, you chased me from my father's house. How can this be a married man with a child, and the first thing that he does when confronted with his past is to remember the pain of the past? So a lot of times we think that time heals all wounds. It's not true. Intentionality heals all wounds. And so we find that, I mean, that story is one of those stories that when I get to heaven, I'm like, sir, why exactly do you do this? But it's very interesting because not only does he lose his daughter in the process, so he wins the battle. In fact, it's a resounding victory. But he makes a vow that he had no business making. God did not ask him for that vow. God didn't ask him. But because the stakes were high, and because he had already been rejected once, he's like, I cannot suffer this kind of rejection again. So Lord, whatever walks out of my house, I will offer it to you as a sacrifice. Meaning that worst case scenario is bingo. Best case scenario is a slave. It was always going to be a living thing. He didn't say whatever comes out of my farm, right? He said my house. Now, as the devil who is the bastard that he is, made sure that he was his only child. And the Bible says, apart from this child, he had neither son or daughter. So he had already kept his focus, saying, I'm not going to do what my father did. I'm not going to commit adultery and all of those things. We already know the sins that so easily beset. But the things that we need to look out for are the things that keep reoccurring, or they're just lying dormant until they're activated. So until you get your career, you don't know that you have a problem dealing with higher management. Until you get married, you don't... You can be the best wife until you marry. You understand? Then they now do hey, you now say, who is this? Who am I? Who am I? Marriage will humble your life. So you can be the best parent until you have children. I was showing my husband something. So I run a coaching program and somebody sent me an assignment. And I showed him, I said, listen, this is why we must be intentional about our children. Because God forbid that they're in their 30s and they're writing this to somebody else's coaching program. That's why I said, if I can kneel down, I will beg you. Do the work and heal. Because it's not just about winning the battle. Winning the battle means that you stop and it doesn't occur in your life, in your marriage, in your job, in your career, in your life. But you have to win the war. The craziest thing about Judges 11 is not the fact that Jephthah lost his daughter. That's not even the craziest part. The craziest part is in verse 40. It says that the daughters of the Israelites, every year, 3 days a year, they will go and mourn the loss of someone that they never met. Is that not crazy? That's how strongholds come. That's how patterns happen. You are mourning someone that you never met, but every year for three days, you are mourning something. That's why you now find families in that family, they have hunger issues. In that family, they have this. It's because one ancestor did not heal. Be the ancestor that heals for your generation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Wow, what a way to wrap up these conversations. Please celebrate my amazing panelists who have shared deeply from their hearts, their experience, and their knowledge. Thank you so much. I've had fun doing this. Do we have any questions, or have we answered? Whoa, we're going to sleep here. We can only take a few. Do we have the roving microphone so we can... Okay, I'll come down. So very quickly, can you please just come forward?
Okay, hi, good morning. Oh, sorry, good afternoon. My name is Ife Dolapo, and thank you so much for this session. It's really impactful because I feel like I'm at this stage and season of my life. So my critical question right now is, can you share practical tips on how to break away from parental expectations? That's my question. Anyone can answer the question. I don't know if I have any specific person.
So when you say parental expectation, are you the parent or?
No. I'm the child.
Okay, and your parents have expectations of you. I mean, in that scenario.
In
that's
that
what you're
scenario,
saying.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. So this is a big issue that happens, especially even in the teenage years, when parents want you to become a doctor, but you have gifting in another area. And a lot of times the communication issue. It starts with you as an individual. How much are you, I won't even say the word sure, but how knowledgeable are you about what you want to do, right? How knowledgeable are you about what you want to do? So sometimes, I don't want to use that teenage representation because you are not, but are you sure of what you're doing, what you want to do, such that you can come into a conversation about it? Sometimes what your parents need, parents stay where they are from the place of fear sometimes. They just want the best for you and they have that projection. And there is a need for you to come to the table with some form of explanation. You want to say something?
Yeah, maybe I can give a bit of context.
Okay.
So I think essentially coming from a place of there was already like a laid down plan, this, that. Then you just come to a knowing that, okay, this is no longer it. And then you need time to then discover what it is. But then there is still that expectation whereby there is no time. Essentially, not like there's no time, but because the expectation is there, so then you are burdened or pressured to whether fulfill that expectation or probably go ahead and then sit down to discover what is or what can be, essentially.
Okay, I think it will still come down to you communicating with them first, talking to them about this is where I am. I mean, in my 20s, I would think that it's easier to communicate, but if it's sounding difficult, I think you communicating to your parents is the first thing and allowing time. I mean, who wants to say something?
Can I just say something? So I have this friend, right? And I think that analogy will work for this. When we know that our parents are not out to destroy us, they want the best for us. If we decide that somewhere along the journey we are not feeling the path that they've laid out, one of the best things we can do is to show that we have thought through an alternative plan. Because at the end of the day, if you can show and say, listen, I know you wanted me to be a lawyer, but I actually have realized that I'll rather be a content creator, Of course, your parents are going to look at you sideways, lawyer, content creator. So the first thing is, if you finish school, you give to Caesar. Before you finish school, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So do the degree, because education will never fail you. But then the second thing is, develop a plan. So you say, look, this is what I have done so far. These are the videos that I've done. I'm using this example loosely. These are the videos I've done. This is the reach. This is the money that I made from it. Because when they can see that you can look after yourself, you can provide. These are examples. Look at J-Bombs. This is the money that she's making. You understand? Look at her in Bali. Look at her in Maldives. This also can be my lifestyle. But when you sit with even people like her, when you write, okay, so how much can I make from this industry? What is the long-term plan? What is this? When you present that case to your parents, they know that you've thought it through. And they are more receptive to allow you to have the freedom to explore. One of my friends was studying to be a lawyer. And then in the summer, she started working in sales. And she found out that she was very good at this. She told her parents, give me a year. Give me a year. If this doesn't work, I will go back to being a lawyer. She never went back to law. Now she has like 4 or 5 different businesses. So maybe you can come to a compromise in that space and say, you know what? Can I have 1 year sabbatical from this, your dream, so that I can pursue my dream? And then if it doesn't work, then I'll go back to what you have laid out for me.
Yeah. I wanted to just sort of add to that, because that's kind of been my life. I think I can relate in so many ways. Just going on a different trajectory, I think that it's important to embrace the and. You can honor your parents and honor yourself, okay? I think that a lot of times we spend our entire lives trying to honor your parents. And the truth is, your parents are nurturers. God ultimately has given you the mission. right? And sometimes your parents are not in the knowing. They don't even know the vision that God has for you. Sometimes you know it in your heart, you know it in your spirit. You're very clear on what it is you're meant to do, right? And your parents have a limited vision of that thing. I personally, for example, like my entire life, I mean, for those of you who follow me on social media, my entire life was leadership, and I was heading to World Bank. My father was so sure that I was Okonjo-Iweala or any of these people. And so when I worked at Citigroup, the entire thing was, oh, you're going into finance. So when I moved back to Nigeria, the expectation was that I was going to go straight into investment banking, and then my life was going to move in that direction, and I was either going to become World Bank, president of World Bank, or become United Nations Secretary General, right? And so that dream was planted in me right from when I was a kid. Now I tell my father, I'm like, I'm United Nations Secretary General, though, because I'm inspiring a nation of people. I'm building a nation of bright lights, and I didn't necessarily need to do it the way that you envisioned it, you know? And I think that when you have that, when you understand that, you know, parents are operating from a place, again, of love. A lot of times it's love, it's fear, it's concern, you know. Now the conversations I have, my parents follow me on social media, right? I mean, they're always in my Instagram comments, if you see. But one of the things I've come to, you know, align with them on is that I'm always going to honor you, but I'm always going to honor myself simultaneously. It's always going to be embracing the and. So my father would see me do these things that he wants me to do, and he's so happy. He's like, great. And then I'll go and get a tattoo, and he'll see it, and he'll be like, but why now? You're spoiling your fine skin. And I'm like, I love you. You know, it's not going to change that, but it's also, you know, my expression and the way that, you know, who it is that I am. And so I think, you know, just doing both at the same time simultaneously.
Perfect. Mojibade is not here, so I'm going to jump in as moderator for the little while that she's not here. What I'm going to ask is that there are 7 of you out there, and we have gone an hour already, and there's still another speaker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask 3 people to say their questions at a go, and then we can answer that, and then we'll take the next 4, and we're going to be really quick. If your questions can be as short as 30 seconds or less, perfect.
Okay, can I go now?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. I'm going to be really quick.
5 seconds gone.
So in the duration of the conversation, I picked self-awareness a lot. You spoke on that a lot. You spoke on that a lot. And that seemed to be the recurrent theme in this particular conversation. So building self-awareness that then inspires you to do other things. However, I've come to realize that self-awareness sometimes translates to self-absorption. And then you become the center of your whole world and try to make yourself the center of everyone else's world. So that's where my question comes in, because if, like you say, the goal is to add value, right, to everyone else's lives by healing from your own craziness and finding yourself, how do you draw the line between self-awareness, finding yourself, and self-identity, and becoming self-absorbed? That's the question. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the amazing panel session. Okay, so my question is, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? 2 years ago, I did so many amazing things, and I started feeling like a fraud at some point. So how do you deal with imposter syndrome?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the panel session. So my question is, so I basically live with my parents, and they were not present with me like when I was younger, and now it's sort of like my relationship with them is like stranger kind of relationship, and so I'm trying to navigate building that relationship, and it's kind of tough for me, so I want to understand how to do that.
We'll just take one more and then we'll answer. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the session. So my question is around friendship. So I'll direct this to J-Booms. So you mentioned that you have core friends and then you have a best friend. So when you have like quite a number of friends that, you know, you have that kind of relationship with them, what do you look out for when you're saying, oh, this person is my best friend, and this person, we're close, but we're not that close, so this person is just going to be my core friend? And how do you go about not making anyone feel left out, you know? All right, thank you.
Understand perfectly. Thank you.
So to the lady who spoke first, I must say you speak excellently well, by the way. speak excellently well. I love good communicators. So to answer your question about self-awareness and self-help, if you go through the definition of what emotional intelligence really is, Daniel Goleman's definition, it's the ability for you to understand and be self-aware your own emotions and the emotions of others. And now the ability to manage all of that in a relationship. The minute you begin to go over the line is where the problem is, where you're now ignoring everybody else and think that the entire world you. It's not. Thank you.
I think that at the root of imposter syndrome is comparison, right? Because you can be doing, and I like what she said, I had several businesses, and then you're already successful, you're already doing amazing things, you know? Because if you're here and you're in your 20s and you already had several businesses, you are the person that Mojibari was talking about on LinkedIn, you know? But when you remove your eyes from what you're focused on and you start looking at every other thing, then you begin to say, I have 4 businesses, but this person has 6. Oh my God, I'm a failure. Why? You know? So one of the things is to focus on what you're doing, focus on your focus, and let yourself be your benchmark, right? So you are trying to be a better person than you were yesterday. The second thing is this. I've lost it now. What's the second thing? I really left my head. Wow. No. Hold on. No, it must come up because it was really good. You know, right. Everybody has this, right? Everybody has it. I'm going to try and feel my way. Please don't be annoyed, but because I really must get to this thing. It was really good. Yes. See, look at my God. It doesn't flip. It doesn't flop. Right. So focus on your superpower. Focus on what makes you uniquely you. Where there's nobody that can Esther like Esther Longe. Do you understand? There's nobody that can Renny like Renny Mulane. Like, what is your superpower? And then when you understand what your superpower is, and I think, you know, Bumi spoke about it when it comes to authenticity, sit there. Put all your attention on that thing. And what would happen is you will now find that people are doing, even in the same industry as you, they're doing the same things ostensibly, but you realize that you bring your own voice to whatever it is. You bring your own stamp to whatever it is. And then you get secure, knowing that we're all doing this. But when you ask Esther, this is what you want to get from Esther. This is the unique tilt that she brings. When you ask Adara, this is what you're asking into the conversation. And then you will now find that as a person, you can celebrate other people without being overwhelmed or intimidated by their successes, knowing that in your own space, nobody can dominate it like you do.
Okay, so the lady that asked the question about parenting, I want you to know that our parents gave us what they have, or sometimes their mistakes is a function of a cycle they find themselves at. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is that imagine that your parents did what they did, I don't know what they did, out of the circumstances they found themselves, and I want you to choose to be gracious. Just imagine that life happened to them, and whatever happened in your relationship happened. So be gracious. Choose to forgive. Guess what? They made that decision then. You are now making your decision now. They are responsible for what they did then, but what you are doing now, you are responsible for that. So what do you want to be held responsible for? What do you want to give grace for? So choose to forgive. Choose to heal. Like Esther said, then try and build. It has to be intentional because you probably are not used to it. Put a time on your phone that says, I'm going to call mom at 7 o'clock and I will talk to her for 10 seconds. Try. Build. Send deposit something in the account. Just try to build. And sometimes you can even ask them for advice. You know, those are intentional little steps that you can start taking that can build and consolidate the relationship. But don't forget, you are building your own story right now. And whatever story you are building or you are writing, based on the decisions you are making, you are going to be responsible for it. And guess what? It's coming again as a cycle. Where it will come as you don't know. But you want to choose what you are proud of right now. Yeah.
I'm just going to make it quick. I think that for the friendship question, it's a question that is asked a lot lately. And I'm very wary of these days of labels. You know, everybody must have a best friend. Not so. You know what I mean? I know now in social media it's trendy. My bestie, my bestie, my bestie. I've been seeing it a lot in the past 2 to 3 years. But it's not crucial for your development. It's not crucial for life. You can have great friends. You can have many friends. You don't even have to have many friends, right? But I just wanted to make that note that it's not important that you must have a best friend and have a core friend. You can have friends, right? So for me, I mean, it's just making people know where they stand in your life, right? So my best friend was my best friend for 16 years. So, I mean, based on our values and the relationship that we've had and the history that we've had together, we've grown in that way. And so I did make relationship with Renny and my other friends. But I think that from the beginning, they have all known her and they've all respected her. And we've all just kept it that way. So I think that's really important. So when you're having friends, is that everyone should know where they stand so that we also don't miscommunicate. But it's a bit dicey for me because it's almost like am I placing you here and then I'm placing these other people here and then, you know, it's like a pyramid. It's not. You know what I mean? Because everybody is important and everybody brings different things to the table is what I'll say. All your friends are important.
So my question, I have 2 questions. The first question is, I recently realized that I have a business and I have just been average. So I realized that I've been having the fear of success. I realized that I feel like there's so much God wants me to do, but I'm scared of losing myself when I get there. So I don't want to try at all. Because I know there are so many people that start with God and when they finally get there, they just lose themselves. God is not in the picture anymore. I'm just scared of that whole process because it just feels like my spirit knows there's so much I'm supposed to do, but I'm not taking the steps I'm supposed to take to expand and go to where God wants me to be because I'm just scared of success. Then the second question is, Ma, you spoke about honoring your parents. So, I'm so sorry. You said you should honor your parents and also honor yourself. But how do you handle when the principles your parents want you to apply, those principles are wrong and there are things that can destroy you? So how do you handle it? Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hello, lady. Which is more important to you, number 1 question or number 2 question? Number 1. Okay, so that's the only question we're going to be able to take. And sadly, we can't take any more questions. Renny has asked you to meet the speakers personally after this to ask your questions. We're so sorry. Are we forgiven? Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Please celebrate and thank you. Okay, so the success question. Who did you direct your question to? Anybody? Okay, so I'd like to answer. J-Bombs? Or? Okay, Chris.
So, what was the question again? Fear of success. The Bible tells you He has not given you a spirit of fear, power, sound mind. What else again? I'm rushing on. Love. Thank you, my pastor. So clearly, you find out that one of the major reasons we're driven by that is that fear clearly is almost, in quote, anti-success. I don't think any reason why you should be afraid of success. I don't know what's been formed in your mind, what has been written on the blackboard of your life, but success is something to be cherished, something to work towards, and something to look towards. So I think you can lean more on God's love, and you find out that will definitely chase away every fear. I think that's as simple as I can keep it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris, because perfect love casts all manner of fear. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, can we please celebrate our panelists? I thought you will make that noise a little louder. Come on. Yes, thank you very much.